Hey y'all, this is gonna be, so this video right here is, I'm gonna post it to YouTube and stuff, but basically what it is it's just, if you have issues with programming the FMC, you just don't know how to do it, anything like that, this video is for you. So, that's why I made it, was, so that this, alright, cool, so it works. So, we're gonna start. Now, I can't show you certain things, sadly, because it's screen recording, so I can't show you it on Twitch, but when I go back and edit the video to put it on YouTube, I'll put in the flight plans. So there's going to be part of a 2 to a 4-part series of just how to fly. It could be 2-part because I'm definitely going to do a 737 one, but it might also be 4-part because I might start doing full flight A320, full flight 737. It's just depending on kind of what happens and how I feel. But without further ado, I gotta make a flight plan first. I should have come a little more prepared into the stream, but so this one's for the A320. Now A320 I'm not as good with FMS on. I do like the 737 more. I'm just better with it. It's because pay where that's what I want to fly when I grow up, but I'll still do my best with the A320. Sorry, I'm reviewing a couple videos we uploaded today to our Lightning Squadron YouTube. Please do consider joining that. I'm going to post this to my personal YouTube, so this isn't Lightning Squadron if you're watching it on YouTube, but the Lightning Squadron YouTube is, this Lightning Squadron is me and a couple of my friends. We made a squadron in Flight Sim, pretty much, that's all it is. If you want to be a pilot in this, that would be cool. We do need pilots. If you want to join the Discord, go to the YouTube. So the pilots and the Discord and YouTube, reach out to us through YouTube. Or through Discord, through YouTube. So like you gotta click the link in Discord. Or actually in YouTube, you're gonna have to copy the link. Kind of sucks, we can't verify it yet. YouTube changed the rules, so yeah, but we'll be fine. We're about to start. So our flight, I'm thinking we're gonna make it very long so that I have a chance to show off all of the different things. What's it called? All the different stuff. But, as of now, I just need to figure out what I'm gonna do. Alright. So, I am recording right now. So, I'm gonna show you how to make a flight plan in some brief. I know you guys can't see it, but, it's okay. Anyway, so we're gonna make a new flight actually. So right now it's just, this is an old flight I did. So you come into here, I think if it'll load, use time, yes. Alright, you can go in here, press new flight. So that's gonna load. And okay. Alright, so now we can put in the airline. We're gonna do American Airlines. We're gonna do flight 2163, and then we're gonna do the departure. So I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna just do 2 very far away. So Los Angeles to, I'm gonna say Logan International. So Los Angeles to Boston. So KLAX to KBOS. So that's the ICAO codes. Now we can click here, and we are going to be in the A320-251N. And I downloaded a custom thing. If you guys want that, let me know. Just comment, I want that custom airframe, which is what you need in SimBrief. I'll give it to you guys. It's basically all it is. You just click here for your airframe. It gives you the loads and stuff. It limits how much you can have, a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I'm flying in America, so I use pounds, but if you need to use kilograms, depending on where you are, that's fine. This is our flight plan. This has a lot of things that I'm going to be able to show you. you're watching Twitch, I know it's pretty dumb me explaining this because you can't see it, but it's fine. Alright, so basically, I got American Airlines 2163 from KLX to KBOS. I put in the airframe, switch this to pounds. You can put in the cost index. It doesn't really matter for this flight because we're not actually going to be flying it, but I'm just going to put 50 for our cost index. I think it can go 0 to 100 on Airbus, I'm pretty sure. And then that's pretty much it. It generates a flight plan for you. All you have to do is press the generate flight. That's very cool what this does. You are able to do many things. You can click on view PDF once it loads. You can click on view PDF, which basically is a PDF flight plan. I'm not going to click it because I think it might end the recording on the screen of my computer, but you click on here, and basically when you click view PDF, it'll just say like, oh, it'll be the entire sheet that they use in real life. It'll be almost an exact to what they use in real life, which is very cool. If you click the important to charts, if you pay for a subscription on Navigraph, which I do recommend, I don't have it, but it's very good. It's $10 a month, I think. But anyway, if you import into charts, it gives you charts for it, but you have to pay for that. Flight plan downloads, you can download the flight plan. Pre-file on network, I'm not exactly sure what that does, and IFPS validate, I'm also am not 100% sure what that does. I just don't click those. So you can see that as this little orange, if I click it, the amount of cargo or baggage may have been reduced in order to respect the aircraft's MTOW, MLW, or MI0 fuel weight. So you can close. Alright. So now, what we're going to do is we can move into here, and we can go customization. We're going to put in American. So you guys can't see this, me typing it in. But just know I'm typing it in on Xbox now, so this isn't on my computer. So I put American, flight number 2163. We don't want to append heavy because we're not a cargo plane anyway, so that, yeah. Now we'll put in weight and balances, and all the weight and balances is basically you take block fuel and your cargo, and you basically, you don't mush them together per se, but like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. You put the block fuel in, so I'm gonna do that right now. So 25,767, and if it's close enough, it's close enough. It doesn't really matter. Like 25,795 is close enough. That's the fuel. As for, and you use block fuel, and then for cargo, that is not payload. Payload is what you want to put in this main thing, because it gives you, payload is your passengers and your baggage and stuff. Cargo is just the baggage. So basically we'll just put in 47,389, and if it's close enough, it's close enough, and it'll balance most of this out. 47,000. See, it's balanced. It's all the same, which is a good thing about the game. Now we can change the center of gravity so that, because if you try to fly with it out of that, it won't let you fly. I don't think. Okay, so now we said KLAX, so we'll scroll down to Los Angeles. Again, I'm not doing this full flight. I am only doing the FMS tutorial. I'm just gonna go to a random gate, so we'll just say this one. Also, I'm not going to be doing any checks or anything like that. I'm literally only doing enough to be able to, what's it called? I'm only doing enough to be able to, why is it making me spawn in airborne? That's weird. Aliens, no, I might just have to leave the world map for a second. Okay, yeah. Escape, world map. Let's try to see. Okay, this is really. Okay, it's making me spawn airborne. Typing it into here. I don't know why it's making me spawn airborne. I'm gonna try spawning in, and if it doesn't work, then I'll come back. But I'm just gonna start up. Fly, see if it'll put me in. Now, KLAX is a busy airport, especially because I'm on an American server, so it might take us a little bit to get in, but that's fine because it can give me some time to explain this. So, I'm only doing enough to start to get the FMC on. I'm not doing everything they do in real life. I'm not starting the engines, I'm not doing all the tests and stuff. I'll do that in the full flight video, probably. And that'll most likely only be for 737 until I can learn the A320. I'll do both of them, but until I can learn all the systems of the A320, it'll be fun. Also, the 737 is payware by PMDG, so all the buttons work. As for the A320, not all the buttons work. That put us in pretty fast, that's good. It didn't spawn us in the air, so that's great. Okay. So once we're in order to get the FMS on, which is, again, is all we're doing, you just press battery 1 and battery 2. So bat 1, bat 2, up here in the middle are where you press, and then you press external power and turn that to on. Here the fans whirring up, you can see, yep, the FMC came on. So you can just go to control 5. If you press control 5, it'll shoot you straight down to this view, which is what you want. When we're in this view, you want to press init, that means initialization. Our from to ICAO code, so don't put the airport name or anything, it's just ICAO. So like Los Angeles is KLAX, you put a slash to separate them. You'll learn that you kind of need that. Also, if the boxes are orange, that means it's a mandatory section you have to fill out, so you have to fill that out. So we're doing KLAX to KBOS, Boston or Logan International, which is actually in Boston, which is why it's BOS, I think. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. KLAX to KBOS, and you click there. So you click in the key next to it, that with a line pointing to it, and it should put it in. It just takes a second, and this is a farther route, so I'm not surprised that it's taking a long time to put it in. Might need to try one more time. So KLAX, KBOS, click again. There we go. So now you see this screen. You just press return. So now we don't have any company routes or anything. That doesn't really matter. Now I think you can do wing. No, it doesn't. Okay, I'm falling into a rabbit hole. My bad. Don't do wind. So now we just put in the cost index, which I set to 50. It is my personal. If you look on here, it's 50. And then you put in the cruise flight /temp. So all that cruise flight /temp is, all you have to put in is your cruise flight altitude. It should right here, it's under initial altitude in SimBrief. Our initial altitude is 33,000 feet. Now here's where I'm going to teach you something. You can put 33,000 feet in, so 33, 1, 2, 3, that's 33,000 feet, which works. Or you can do something called a flight level. All that flight level is I think you can do it at any time, like you can do, it doesn't matter what altitude you're at, you can just put, you don't even have to put FL, you can just put a small number, or smaller number. And for 33,000, for example, all we do is we take 33,000 and divide it by 100, so we take away 2 zeros, so 330. Put it in, flight level 330 just means altitude of 33,000 feet. For 10,000, we would do we would do 100. For 10,000 feet, we just do 100, flight level 100. For say 5,000 feet, we just do 50 and 050, and you can see it puts the temp in automatically. So we're gonna go back to 330, which is our cruising altitude, 33,000 feet. So that's it. And now we're gonna go next page. Now sometimes, or usually, you would have to put this in the real airplane, these two boxes, to fill all this in, but since this is just for the flight planning part of it, really, I'm not gonna do any of this. You would put in the wind, you'd put in the final time, alternate time, you put all this in. But we don't need to do that. So straight from here, we can just press F plan, which just means flight plan. You can see there's only 3 waypoints here: KLAX, DCEL, KBOS. That's all there is. So now we can do our departure. And if you look on route on SimBrief, the departure is just, it's KLAX, and we're taking off runway 24 left. So in order to see this, the first box, this box, is your airport and your runway. So we're 24 left is the runway. So you go on the sim, you go into KLAX, you press departure, and we're taking off 24 left. Now in order to scroll down on this list, in the A320 in general on a list, you press the up arrow. It's weird. It's backwards sort of. But we just 24 left, so we just click that, soft key, and it brings us to our SID. Our SID is the next waypoint. You ignore this. That's just the flight levels and stuff. That's just a climb. We go, oh, and OSHNN1 is our SID. So we look around, scroll around until we find it. There it is, OSS8 or OSHNN1. Just click that. And put it in. And it automatically put in Beal for us. If it hadn't, we would have to look on the transition side and click Beal. But it put it in automatically for us, so we can just press insert down here. And now you can see it put in all these waypoints. So all that a SID is a standard instrument departure. It's just a group of waypoints together so that ATC can know exactly what you're flying, and it makes it easier for you and air traffic control. Also, the cool thing is that whenever you put in the SID, it puts in the SID up until a certain point, and when you put in the transition, it'll switch the SID. There's multiple like routes of the same SID depending on the transition. So if there's no transition, it'll fly one route. If we used the Beal transition, it would be another route. If we used a different transition, it would be a different route up here. It's pretty cool. It's just all coded by ATC. So it's exactly the same. And whenever planes were flying back in the old days, they'd have to say we're going to ATC. They'd say we're going to Delray, just all the way down the list. But instead, now they can say I'm gonna fly the SID OSHNN1 to transition to Beal, and that would give them ATC the right idea. From here, we can see that there's J146. Now, there's two kinds of ways to get to the next waypoint after the SID or the star, or just the SID. There's an example of a waypoint is DICE, or DVC. Those are all waypoints. They're separated by, so you can kind of see Beal's a waypoint, and it's separated by J146 and then DICE is another waypoint. So Beal and DICE are separated by J146, and then J146 again to DVC. So DICE is separated by J146 from DVE. So like DVC is separated from DICE by J146. Now, so those are both airways. Those are just, it's kind of like a SID. It's a group of waypoints. And then there's this DCT. All that means is direct. There's no waypoints in between, so there's no airways. It's just DVC to HBU. They're just straight there. Same thing for HBU to MCK. It's just straight there. And up until around, so we're here, so up until around all the way down to here, it's all direct waypoints. Not there. Up until here. Because now you can see, so from here to here is all direct, and then from here, and then that's when the, airway comes in. So there's the airway. So airways are like SIDs, they're just a group of waypoints together. That's all an airway is. Direct just means you're going straight to the air. Or straight from one waypoint to another. So next up, we have to put in the airway. For the airway, remember KBOS is our destination, so we don't want to use the destination. We want to use the previous waypoint. Because if you look on here, on SimBrief, the destination is not right next to Beal. It's way further down. So we go to Beal, and we press Airways. Now Airways will give us the via Ocean 1 to Beal. That's to get there. We're using the SID Ocean 1 to get to Beal. Next, we'll put in J146. J146. And we'll go to sorry, that's not the right one. DICE. So that's what's on SimBrief. And you can see it kind of kicked it out. Sometimes that happens. So what you just have to do is just look down. Oh, okay, so it just automatically put in, which is kind of weird. Usually it doesn't do that. But it's in, so that's what matters. So J146 to DICE. Then we can go to DICE, because that was the last waypoint we put in. And moving on to the next one, it's J146 to DVC. So airways, J146, so we put that in again. Just put that in to DVC. Delta, I don't know what V is, Sierra. No, I don't know what C is actually. That's gonna load, and now it's in. So now we can see that's in. J146 to DVC is in. Now, the next one, the next waypoint is direct. So we can exit out of airways. We can do this one of two ways. I'll do the first one this way. So we can skip this. We can skip the airway. So via means put in an airway. To means put in the waypoint. So we can skip via. We can go straight to 2, and we can see 2 is HBU. So we just put straight in HBU. This is still in the airways tab. So you click this, and you wait for a second, and you can see once it loads. If it loads, it might not. Try again. Oh, okay. So we got our first one like this. Now, this just means that there's multiple HBUs. There might be an airport. We can see it lists this as a VOR, and this one just probably. I apologize, my controller turned off, but you can see that this one is listed as a VOR, which is just a waypoint pretty much. This one's listed as probably an airport or something. So when this happens, we'll go to SimBrief. We'll find HBU along the line of waypoints. So we'll skip around till we find HBU, and we can click on it, and we'll see it's at around 38.5 north and almost exactly 107 south west. So now we can look. Oh, look, this one's north 38 degrees, 27.1, so that's close to what we said, and west 107 degrees, 02.3. Now they separate them out really easily, so obviously we're in the northern hemisphere, not the southern hemisphere. And if you don't know 100%, you can just look on SimBrief at the waypoint, and it'll tell you on the outskirts where you are, the coordinates. So obviously we're in the northern hemisphere, not the southern hemisphere. As I said, it was and north 38 point whatever, and then west. So it's north and west, not south and east. So we click the north and west. We just click that, and you can see it put it in. And for some reason, sometimes this happens, but it put it in as J146. And when that happens, usually that means that that's what's supposed to happen. You can trust the computer, the flight computer on this one. So now, the other way, so I'm going to keep going until it just gives us one that says direct. So the next waypoint is, on the list, is DCT to MCK. So we're going direct to MCK. You can just plug that in. Wait for it to load. There we go. And now you can see it says direct. So that means there's no airway, it's just direct to. And now with that, you can keep going down the list. You can keep putting in the directs, or you can do it this way. So I could have done this up here. I could have just pressed insert. So press insert. And I could have just done that, and it would have been fine, but I don't need to do that. I could have done it the other way that I just did, or I can do it this way. Now I'm going to use a different waypoint, but it's still direct. So if you look, there's MCK here. There's actually 2 more ways you can do this, so there's 3 ways you can put it in. It's direct to KP63C is the next waypoint, so it's direct to KP63C. The next way you can do it is by clicking on the last waypoint and putting next waypoint. So we said it was KP63, KP63C, and we can see that yes, KP63C works. And we can just click next waypoint. We plugged it in, we typed it in, we put in the next waypoint, we can scroll down, make sure it put it in. So KP63C, it is before K Boston and after MCK. So it's after the last waypoint, but before the destination, which is what we want. So we can press insert. Now we can scroll down again, or we can scroll the other way to make it a little, actually no, you can't, ignore that. We have to scroll down, it takes a while. There's a lot of waypoints in this one. You scroll down, there's KP63C. Now, the next way you can put in a direct waypoint, the next one is direct to KP66E, is you can just do this. It's really easy. You just type in the waypoint. You don't click on anything. You don't need to click on anything to get to this. You just press KP, where's the P? P66E. And now we can just press on the waypoint, the last waypoint we put in, the waypoint that we want it to go after. So the waypoint that we want, the current waypoint we're putting in to go after. So we just put in KP63C, and we want KP66E. That's direct. It has to be direct. It can't be an airway. It has to be direct to do this. We just want to plug this in afterwards. That. So we can just press KP63C. That soft key, and it'll put it in right there for us. This is the way I like to do it, and you don't need to press insert every single time. You can, it's entirely up to you. If you mess something up or you accidentally press erase, it'll erase your progress. So just for now, I'm gonna press insert, and then but it'll reset you back to the top. You gotta scroll all the way back down. And now you can see it's in KP63C, then KP66E. So next up, our next waypoint is direct to CNOTA. I'm gonna do it how I like it now. You can do any of the ways. You could have done any of the ways for the previous ones. It's really up to you how you do it. Up to personal preference. I just prefer doing it this way. It's a lot faster. So now we can see CONTA is before the destination. Now even if it says decel, like we saw just for a second, it said decel. It's as long as it's before the destination and after that, it's fine. Decel is not a waypoint. Decel is your deceleration point, where you start to decelerate before the runway. So that's all that is. We can just press insert. We'll have to scroll all the way back down. Now next up on the list is J146 to IOW. So that is a airway. Now again, the only way you can do airways is by clicking on here and going airways. And then you can put it in. So J146. So we'll type that in. J146. And it's okay. So sometimes that happens where it says it's not in the what's called database. So you can click it. It's like not in database. You want to make sure you type it in correct. J146. I did type it in correct. Now if that doesn't work, that means that you just might have to do direct. So it doesn't really matter even if it says it in the waypoints, as long as you get to the next waypoint safely, you're fine. You might just have to tell air traffic control, hey, this didn't work, we're gonna put this in, and they can either say like okay or negative, go to this waypoint instead. So there's multiple things that can happen here, but for the purposes of the simulator, and it's not real life, you can just put in the next waypoint. And now we can see, oh man, there's a long list of stuff, and they all look very close to each other. So now this is when it really matters where exactly you say you are. So we need to go to the waypoint. It's IOW. So we can scroll around to IOW, and we can see, okay, in SimBrief, we can see it's at about 91.5, and then 41.5. So north 41.5. West 91.5. So north 41 degrees 31, west 91, and that's the closest because you can see the other one 75, 127, 18, 007. So most of the time it's going to be the top one, but you always want to make sure. So now we can just click this, and yes, they're all exactly the same. It's really weird, but we're just going to double check this one more time. We're at 41.5. It's close enough. It's 41.3. And 91.5, close enough, it's 91.36. So we just click this, and it puts it in. And again, it was supposed to be an airway. If it does a waypoint, it's fine. Now, what I like to do now is, now that just because I'm already in the waypoint screen, even if it says direct, I just start putting in the direct one straight in here, because it's even faster this way. The two fastest ways are doing it through the airways tab, because you can just keep putting it in, and it's like it's kind of like the Boeing ones, or you do the last one I showed, which was clicking on the waypoint before directly and putting in the waypoint right after it, instead of going to next waypoint, because that's very slow. So what I'm going to do now is, if I'm already on this screen, I just started putting in the direct ones into here, even though they're not airways. If I'm on the back at the normal flight plan screen, like right here, I start putting them in. I'm going to go back to the other screen and just pretend I didn't click out of that. So I'm just going to go all the way down to IOW. Click Airways. I'm just going to... Did it work? I'm not sure if it worked. I'm gonna make sure that IOW, it didn't work. I might have accidentally, oh no, it did, because I put in IOW. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the airway screen. I was at Conta, so it doesn't really matter which one you put in, just as long as it's not too far back. So IOW, then it's direct to GIJ. So remember, for direct, you don't need to type in DCT or direct. You just put in the waypoint and just pop it in on 2, and it'll automatically assume it's direct. Unless there's an airway that has to attach to the waypoint. Sometimes that happens. If it does that, don't freak out. It's not going to make too much of a difference. You just might need to tell air traffic control in real life that that's what happened, and they'll either say okay or change it. And so yeah, so now it's another waypoint. So this time it's J146 to WOOST. So we'll type in. It might not work again. It might work. We'll see. So J146. Pop that right there, and it did work this time. So that means that from GIJ we can use J146. It just because remember we were trying to do it on the Conta and J146 to IOW. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's just depending on the waypoint, and sometimes that has to do with outdated servers like SimBrief, the one I'm on. If you pay for SimBrief, it'll give you newer ones. But if you're on older SimBrief, or if you don't pay for SimBrief, it gives you one from I'm not exactly sure when. It's from a while ago, a couple of years. This is usually up to date because they keep flight sim up to date. But sometimes SimBrief is off. Like if you find, sometimes there might be a SID or a star that says GI. I'm making up something up right now, like HITER hitter. And then 5 in SimBrief it'll say put in HITER 5, but in the thingy it might be, in the FMC it might be HITER 6. They're both the same thing. It might just have 1 or 2 extra waypoints in it that's just updated because of the newer versions. That's what that means basically, because this is out of date. SimBrief is out of date. The game is in date. So anyway, we did J146 to WOOST. So we just type in WOO S and T, and we can just type that there. First index not found. Now, what that means, this is the first index. It's like you're reading a book. This is the first index. This is the second index. So if this happens, and this is a good way to show how to clear. If you're on an empty, or you're blank, and you press clear, you can delete something out of the FMC. So I can click here and it deletes that, or it should. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna press insert. I'm gonna scroll down and see what the last waypoint was. The last waypoint I put in was GIJ. I'll click GIJ. Actually, so that cleared GIJ, which is not what we wanted to do. That was an accident. We just pressed TMPY erase, so that just erases what we just did. But anyway, that's a good way to show off clear. All that clear means is it'll delete something out of the flight plan or out of whatever that was there before. So now we can just press GIJ and go airways, and I'm just going to keep putting in the direct ones. So again, J146 to WOOST looks like this. So I put in J146 and it worked this time. But then when I went to put in WOOST, ST, in probably modern day, but also just in the sim, J146 can't connect JIG to WOOST. When that happens, it's very simple what you have to do. All you have to do is return, scroll down, and so to undo what we just did, go to GIJ, airways, and we basically just make it direct. So we're going direct to WOOST, from GIJ just to WOOST. ST. And sometimes when you do that, so we'll wait for that to load, it might give us, okay, so sometimes when you do that, it'll put in the right airway. Sometimes you just can't type in the right airway, you just have to type in the waypoint. This time it's just putting us direct, but it's fine. Next up on the list is direct to JHW, so I'm just gonna type in where's HW. Also, this is very hard to do. This is a complex computer. It's hard, especially when you're first doing it. It's hard for me even now. I make mistakes all the time. But with practice, you get better at it. So if you don't understand it right away, just rewatch the video, and then you can go through with practice, and practice makes perfect. So next up is Q82 to VIEEW. So we'll try this. Q82 to VIEEW. Just click here. Wait for that to load. And there we go. So this one actually worked. This is one of the first ones. This is the second one that actually worked. So that's the airway to the thing. From JH through the airway, which is just waypoints. So from JHW to all the waypoints that comes out at VIEW. Next on the list is DCT to ITH. So we're going direct to ITH. So remember, you just do direct, you can just press on the 2. You don't want to put a waypoint in VIA ever, really. Excuse me for that. My controller turned off again, but you only really want to put waypoints in 2 and airways in VIA. That's kind of how they are separated. Now we got this again. There's ITH 07, which is a runway, I'm pretty sure. We don't want to use a runway, we want to use a VOR, because that's what it is, it's a waypoint. So we can basically rule out that one, and just look at the VORs. So, if we go along in SimBrief, in the map, and go to find, wherever it is, ITH, we can see ITH is at 76.5 and 42.5. So, you look at north 42.5, west 76.5. That one's very close. This one's 35, 13, and 55. So you can tell just 45 or 42.5 and 76.5 is right here. And that puts it in direct to ITH. Now, whenever you get to the end of the page, it's really easy to get to the next page. All you have to do is press... Oh, never mind. So once you fill up the page, you just have to press insert. Sometimes that happens. So you just insert. Then you can scroll all the way back down and get back to the same screen by when you get to here at ITH, the last waypoint you put in, you click that and just go airways, and it gives you a new blank page. Or sometimes it gives you this, but most times it just gives you a blank page. After that, it's direct to PONCT. And since we're almost done, I might just go back to flight plan, scroll all the way down, just show you guys the way again that you do it. You go last waypoint before your destination, so the last waypoint you put in, or wherever you want to put it. So if I accidentally skipped a waypoint, I need to put a waypoint after GIJ. Before whoosh, I would put it in on GIJ, because it goes after whatever waypoint you put it in on. So if I needed to put in TBW after GIJ, before whoosh, I could just type in TBW on the scratch pad. This is a scratch pad. Whatever you're typing in at the bottom is the scratch pad. Like, that is the scratch pad. So I can just type in TBW. I'm not actually going to do it because that's not an actual waypoint, I don't think. But you do TBW, you click on GIJ, and it'll put it in between GIJ and whoosh. That's all you do. Scroll back down again. We're going to go ITH, and we're just going to do direct to PONCT. So we click on PONC and T. And then we just put it in right after that. Now we can see ITH, PONCT, and then decel. So remember, decel is not a waypoint, it's just a way to decelerate your plane. And then we can just press insert. And now it's all in. So we can scroll down. And now, if you look on the waypoint, we're very close to the end. So this JFUND2 is a star. And a star means standard instrument arrival. And so this whole thing is an approach. Technically, this all the way back up to the direct is an approach. That's all an approach. Now, there's many different approaches. There's the star, there's RNAV approaches, and there's just direct. So if JFUND2 was gone and was replaced with just DCT, that means you're just going direct into KBOS22 left. But since there's a star, it's just a certain procedure you follow to get into the airport. And PONCT is a transition into JFUND2, and JFUND2 is a transition into or is a group of waypoints that transitions you into 22 left. And we're going direct from ITH to Ponct to the star. So direct to Ponct, the transition. The transition brings you to the star, and the star brings you to the airport and the runway. So the runway is 22 left. So now what we can do is we can click the destination. There's two ways to do this. You can scroll all the way down and click KBOS at the bottom, or you can just press flight plan, or if you're already at the top, you can just press down here at the DEST KBOS, click that, and go arrival, and now we're on the arrival part. Actually, it might have been a VIA. It's either a VIA or a transition. It's one of the two. Sometimes it changes. Ponct is either a VIA or transition. Sometimes it changes. So we start by putting in the runway. So we scroll, remember to scroll down, you scroll up. So we found it, ILS 22 left. ILS is Instrument Landing System. There's also localizer approaches. I'm going to see if, I know that Boston has a lot of different approaches. So there's localizer for 22 left, localizer 22 left, if I keep going. There's RNAV, which is basically just GPS. For RNAVs, there's VORs to get into it. There's a whole bunch of approaches, but usually they use in real life, and what I like to use is just ILS because it's easy to fly. So press ILS 22 left. Then we click on our star. So right here, you see it says star, and remember our star is JFUN 2. So we click JFUN 2, and you can see it puts in the star. And sometimes it'll just, even though Ponct is a VIA / a transition, sometimes it won't give it to you. But remember that Ponct is already in the flight plan, so we don't need to put it in anymore. So it's already in the flight plan, we don't need to put it in anymore. That's basically why it's not showing up. Or sometimes it will show up, and you can just click it, even if it's already in the waypoint, you can still click it. It's really up to you. But since there's no VIAs, we'll just press no VIAs. And transition. Oh, actually, so you just want to click no VIAs, so there's no VIAs into this runway. Sorry, I ignore what I said about Ponct last time. You click no VIA, and now we can see the transition is Ponct. Ponct is a transition. And you can see it right here, so we click Ponct. There's our transition, and now it brings you back to approach runway. So that means you're finished. So we're flying in to ILS 22 left with no VIA, so via nothing. We're flying into it with the star JFUN 2, and when we're flying into JFUN 2 with the Ponct transition, is all that's saying. Press insert. Now we can see when we scroll down up to, I'm gonna find it, Ponct, up to Ponct right here. So we fly from ITH direct into Ponct. Then where the star starts is Soli, and we can see all the waypoints. There's MNS, TA, SETS, DUBALE, and we just keep going down the list until RW22 left, and that's runway 22 left, which is the runway we're landing on, and then destination, which is KBOS 22 left, KBOS 22 left. Sorry, I make up acronyms. And that's the entire flight plan. So this was a really long one. Most of the time, unless you make it extremely long or the flight extremely long, it won't be that long. Now, I'm just going to show you something quick that doesn't have to do with the flight plan, but that can really help you in the future. So we're going to press F to get back up to this screen here. And we're going to click on this little knob right here, and we're going to press plan. Basically, that changed the view of this. I think this is the ND. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's ND. Now, when we're looking, so you want to be zoomed in mostly for this. You don't really want to be on 40 ever. When you're on the ground, you usually want to be on 10, especially when you're reviewing the flight plan. After that, you could be on 80 or 100 or 100, even 320 or 160 or even 320 when you're cruising, at your cruising altitude, but usually when you're on the ground, you want to be in 10. Now, we're on plan mode, and all that plan mode means that whatever is at the top right here, like right now, it's KLAX 24 left, so we're centered on the runway. Whatever's at the top is what's showing. So when we scroll up right here using the up arrow, because remember it's backwards, scroll down, it moves it, so it's Delry. Now when we go to the next one, we're at, and whatever that says, Enney, E-N-N-E-Y. Then we're at the next one, and you can see it's following the flight plan, and it drew the line on our little map. that shows us where we need to go. And when you turn on autopilot, and I'll do an autopilot tutorial in the full flight video, look at that, I found something. So this is why we do it, is we can see, oh look, Conta is not connected to anything. So we can zoom out. And I don't see anything on it, which is funny. Which means there might be something wrong with Conta here. So we can look. We can put next waypoint, and if we look at the flight plan, we're at Conta J146 to IOW. So we're going to want to go Airways, and we can go IOW and put in J146 already on top of IW, even though direct's already in, we can change it. So IOW second line, we can go direct, like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Looks like it's not going to work this time. Okay, let me try to do something. Let me try. Okay, it's alright. So we can just leave it as it is, and we can... Oh, never mind. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not very smart. I didn't look close enough. There's two lines. So basically, we're flying to Conta probably along this line, and then flying, and then doing a big 360 and just flying back. Is all that means. I'm sorry, guys. That is completely my fault. I didn't see the other one. I thought it just ended. But anyway, we can zoom back to 10. And sadly, we're going to have to restart all this, but we're just going to go down to Conta very fast, and then we'll continue slow. So now we can see when we're at Conta, when we get there, flying in, start to make a turn here, there's the turn, Conta, and now we can see it cuts back. I didn't see that, guys. That was on. So now we fly up, and we're at HOV, then GU, and just keep following. We're not even, I think we're like halfway through the flight right now, so I'm just going to speed through it. What's happened? So we can see, so we can still see that we're flying through, and there's the runway. If I zoom in, you can see it's runway. It's covered up by K-Boss, but it says runway 22 left, as we see. So runway 22 left, right here, is where we're landing, and we're flying directed. And that's pretty much the whole flight plan. Now, I did say this was an FMC tutorial, so I'm going to finish programming the FMC just to finish showing you what you need to do, so we can click flight. I switched it back. So, I switched it back to ARC mode, so it's on ARC. ARC is what it's standard on. That's like putting your heading in front. That's the plane. The yellow, like, whatever that is the plane, and it's facing forward. Whatever is straight ahead of you is where your plane's facing on the map. So now, we can go back. We can press Control 5 as the shortcut on the keyboard to just switch views to that. After flight plan, the next thing I do is I put in performance. Performance is just, this is takeoff performance. So takeoff performance, and I'm just going to do this really fast, is just, it's like a way to calculate your takeoff speeds and stuff, so I'll go through that. Your transition altitude, your climb rate, all that. So to start, we're going to put in our flaps. Now, if we look at the A320 in particular, on the Boeing, there's like 20, or there's like 8 different settings. On this, there's just 4 settings. There's 0, 1, 2, 3L, and full. I'll put it back up to 0. Standard takeoff for A320 is usually 1. If you're on a normal size runway, you only want flaps 1. Whereas, if you're on a shorter runway, you'll want 2, maybe even 3. You usually don't take off on full, but if you really were doing a very short takeoff, you'd be on full. But since at this airport, with our runway dimensions, we should, and there is a performance calculator tool that's online. I don't have one. I wish I did, but I don't. So I always just eyeball it. If I feel like I can make it with 1 flap, you always want flaps for takeoff. But if I can feel like I can make it with 1 flap, I go flaps 1. If I'm a little worried, I go to flaps 2, and if I'm still worried about flaps 2, I go to flaps 3. And 3 is the lowest I'll go. Otherwise, that means it's just too short of a runway, you can't take off there. So what we do is we just type in 1, and we put it into this slot, if you're taking off flaps 1. If you're taking off from a shorter runway, that you're not too sure about flaps 1, but you think 2 will work, you can put in 2, or you can put in 3. And that's it. But we're going to put in 1 as ours. Oops, that's not what we wanted. Flight to temp was 20. So flex temp is just the engine temperature. I don't worry about that. I usually don't do most of the stuff on this page, which isn't good. I know that's not what they do in real life, but I'm not big on the A320. So we're going to ignore I ever did that. We're going to pretend that's the same. And then the flaps is just 1. Then you can click this. In real life, it will calculate it, but most of the time, the plane's calculator isn't as accurate as if you were to use a calculator, because the calculator can pull information from like weather meters and stuff, like online calculators that are different than just what the plane has if it was a clear day, 0 wind, and a perfectly dry runway with no issues on it. Is what the plane's taking it from. But the plane is usually close enough that it won't make too much of a difference. Now, I'm putting the transition altitude. In America, it's always 18,000 feet. So we just put in 18,000. You can see that's 18,000. Just put that in. Now we're at 18,000. Transition altitude is just when you switch barometric pressure from your numbers to standard. So you see some standard is 29.92. And whatever the number is changes. So barometric pressure is just what the plane is how high the plane's telling you that you actually are versus how high you actually are. So you have to tune that instrument that I apologize, guys. My controller keeps turning off, which is what has my headset on. But basically, we can just tune the barometric pressure to have the altimeter, or not the altimeter, to have the instrument tell us how high we are more accurately than if we just left it at 1. And once you get over 18,000 feet in America, you switch it to standard, which is 29.92 in inches, and that's after 18,000 feet. Usually it's just that. As in, like, Britain, or pretty much when you're flying anywhere else, because Americans can be kind of weird about their conversions and math stuff. It varies. You ask air traffic control about what the current conditions are and what the transition altitude is, but in America, it's pretty much always 18,000. You can always assume that. Now we put in our V speeds. I let the airplane calculate it, so you can just click this off next to it. And we are flying very heavy today because it is a long flight. Like, the airtime, as calculated on SimBrief, says it's 4 hours and 40 minutes. So there's a lot of fuel, and yeah. But, again, we're still on a long enough runway that we should be able to hit these speeds pretty easily. So, I'm going to go through the speeds. V1. When you hit V1, it means that you're going so fast that now, if you try to stop the plane, so if you have to abort the takeoff, you can't stop the plane past 164 knots, or at 164 knots or higher. You can't stop it or you'll go off the end of the runway, is what that's saying. VR is when you rotate. So you pull back on the stick to pull up, and off the runway, you take off, actually, at 171. And 173, I think, is the altitude you use when you, or the speed you use. I'm not exactly sure what V2 is. I know it has something to do with after you take off, you want to maintain that speed for a little bit to make sure the engines are working and stuff, I'm pretty sure, and then you start your acceleration. So 173 is what it's at. So if we look on our speedometer here, we can see that the V speeds are labeled, at least V1 and VR are. So 164 is displayed here, 173 is displayed here, and as we go up this little scale, the speedometer scale, it'll start to, whenever we get closer, like probably in around 130, 140, it'll show up on the thing with little lines that'll say V1 and VR. And then we know, okay, we're approaching V1, we're at V1. We're approaching VR, now we're at VR. And so yeah. Now we can pre-select speeds, headings, so this is autopilot, so when they're pushed in and they're ... with a little dot by it, that means it's managed mode. Same thing for altitude. So it means it's on managed, or it's it's literally auto all by itself. It's flying off the FMC. That's called VNAV and LNAV. So VNAV is your altitude, LNAV is your left and right, and speed is controlled by VNAV if you're in VNAV mode. So right now, on takeoff, you always want to go manual on this, so you pull out of this and to where it shows you numbers. And you put in, if you go back to flight plan, I think it tells you the headings, maybe not. So you'll have to look up the heading. It's 24. I'm going to trust this. I'm just going to keep 251, and because it's close enough to 24. Actually, I'll just put 248 or something. That's not correct. Don't use that if you're coming at this airport. Whenever I do a full flight, I'm not going to do this flight plan, because it's just way too long. I'll do a different one, but I'll do a shorter one, but I'll use the proper heading. Our speed mode, you always want to put in V2 in speed mode, so if we go back to performance, we can see V2 is 173, so we can just put that in here, scroll up on the wheel. This technically isn't FMC, but it kind of goes hand in hand with FMC, so I'm just going to do it here. And then you put in the altitude that you're going to stop at, or whatever your cleared altitude is. Since we're technically, this airport is in VFR right now, we can fly up to whatever altitude we want without air traffic control telling us. If it were IFR, which is instrument flight rules, VFR is visual flight rules, IFR is instrument flight rules. In IFR, air traffic control tells you what to do, and if we were in IFR right now, we would have to get a cleared altitude. So air traffic control would be like, when you take off, clear to climb to 3,000 feet, and wait for their instructions before climbing. So we would move this back to 3,000. But, because it's VFR, we can just put it up to 33,000 as our cruising altitude. Once we take off, we'll engage, so we're not taking off now, but if we were to take off, we would engage auto throttle. E/THR is auto throttle. And we'd engage autopilot 1. Let me scroll this back. So, changed it for some reason. I think we were at 173. And then after, I think when you get over 200 or 300 feet, you engage autopilot. It'll follow the heading, it'll do all that. And then you push in, and that'll fly it's completely by itself. It'll turn by itself, it'll climb at the certain speed it needs to climb at all by itself. It'll maintain the speed all by itself, based on what you need and your fuel loads and stuff and all that. So it'll do all that. Now, as for back to the actual FMC, if we go in, when you can hit next phase, in real life you would change UTC, you'd change it to selected, you do all this. I don't do that because I'm simming and I honestly don't like the A320 as much, I'm not gonna lie, but it's just kind of easier. So now this is cruise, so this is takeoff, this is climb, cruise. At cruise, you can put in the selected speed along with the cruise altitude or the cost index. You put in ATC mode as managed, or so whole bunch of stuff. Then you can go next phase. Next phase is descent. So we'll say descent speed is 241 with cost index 50, all that. Next phase is approach. So we would put in we would do this when we got closer to runway or the airport, the arrival airport. But I'm just gonna put it in now to demonstrate. You would do 18,000 for transition altitude because we're in America. You'd put in the QNH. I'm gonna make something up. I'm just gonna put in the standard cruising altitude or the standard QNH. QNH is just barometric pressure. So I'm just gonna put in standard, which is 2992. Temperature, we'll just put 5, so we'll say it's 5 degrees there. Mag wind, we'll do 0 at 0, so this is 0 degrees of 0 wind. If you were doing like 100 degrees, or we'll do 180 degrees /5, that means there's 5 knots of wind coming in from the south. Then your my decision altitude, or decision height, DH, decision height, you can put that in, so we'll say decision height is 200, which just means that we're going to make the decision to land at 200 feet. That's all that means. And that is pretty much the entire flight computer program. So that's it. That's all you need to do, technically, to get this ready. But of course there's a whole bunch of other menus that you need to use, airport, like there's a bunch of other stuff, and if you were in real life you would need to use those because we're simming. I don't use those, and I don't do all those extra things. In the 737 I do, but that's because I know how to. In this, I don't want to do something wrong because I'm not sure how to use it very well. And that's it. So we can head back to normal. So this is the entire cockpit. Not the entire cockpit. This is the FMC completely set up. And this completely set up. I hope this helped you. If it didn't, put questions in the comments. I'm going to post this to YouTube, so put questions in the comments if it didn't work. Or if you didn't understand. And if you did understand, and you liked my videos, please consider liking and subscribing. I am trying to get to at least 100 subscribers, probably before the end of the year. I know I can make it happen, but I need you guys' help with that. It's completely free, and it really helps me out, and it boosts my happiness. So yeah, this is the FMC setup, and I hope it helped you. I can, yeah, so if you can repeat this with any flight plan that you have, and that's it. Thank you for watching, and have a happy flight.